This video is brought to you by Manscaped. Stick around to hear more about the discount and bonuses that they are offering to the entire UEG community. Also, this video is available completely ad-free in an audio podcast form on locals.com. It's a way to support the channel beyond YouTube and give much more stability, as well as my entire content library being up on Odyssey, which is a YouTube platform alternative for those who want to check it out. Links are down below in the description. Okay, today I want to dive into the world of collectible card trading and put forth a claim, a bold claim, that we are accelerating into a massive value bubble when it comes to Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering pack openings, and the peer-to-peer market that has been exploding as a result of this surging popularity. If you regularly engage with online communities in the realm of Twitch and YouTube, you have probably seen the effects of this already. Pack opening streams and videos have gone absolutely viral in recent months with so much interest, the activity even made it to mainstream media news, after a box of first edition Pokemon cards was about to be purchased by a group of idiot millionaires, and it ended up being opened live on stream, showing that it was a scam live to everyone who was watching. This kind of viral moment led to an even greater hype around the activity, and as the popularity continues unabated, I want to make the case that what we see is a fully formed bubble just waiting to pop. And when it does, a massive number of people currently diving into the hobby will lose a catastrophic amount of value if they can even convert their cards at all. I say this because the context behind a lot of these streams and videos involve pull value. There is a massively popular surge in influencers, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, and now even self-proclaimed millionaires who have been entering the scene in order to produce content. And a common thread that you will see repeatedly is a number on their screen, which indicates pull value, and a high emphasis on the "is this card worth X, Y, or Z" component. There is also a huge emphasis on what PSA grade would this be, how much is it worth based on that PSA grade, and there's a very clear link now, emphasized by streams like the one I'm about to discuss here in a moment, that shows a correlation between money, cards, and relative interest. Now, some of the people who have facilitated this meteoric rise genuinely love the hobby. Someone like Moist Critical, Penguins, Charlie, however you want to refer to him. Someone such as Charlie lights up like a pregnant woman whenever there are packs in the room, and he clearly has an appreciation for the hobby. The value market and peer-to-peer trading network could crash, but it's doubtful he would care in the slightest. I really don't think he would. He does this for him, not for money. At least that's my honest impression, even though he certainly does have value indicators on his streams, and he does evaluate his collection based on monetary price tags. Still, if push came to shove, I believe it's fairly obvious he would not just drop the hobby and attempt to liquidate holdings on the open market. However, as the interest and value continues to grow, the ratio of hobbyists and collectors to flippers and investors becomes skewed. And the further that balance diverges, the more unstable the market becomes, at higher and higher prices, and that is where the danger comes from. Before going any further, you gotta know about Manscaped. These are other types of grooming materials. Manscaped, everything else. Manscaped, everything else. Manscaped is the difference, really, truly, between the cave and the man. Their all-performance ball care kit, complete with the Lawnmower 3.0, will reduce nicks and cuts, cradle, jingle, Merry Christmas, your balls with the utmost care, and Manscaped has even created a new deodorant called the Crop Preserver. Want more? Okay, feast your eyes on the Weed Whacker, a nose hair trimmer like no other I have ever used. I've never in my life injected so much crisp American oxygen directly into my galaxy brain so that I can produce videos like this than after I use the Weed Whacker. And there's still more to see. Nail Care Head to Toe Holiday Shear is a luxury Shears 2.0 6-piece stainless steel kit provided by Manscaped, and for a limited time, you can get a Shed travel bag and the Manscaped exclusive anti-chafing boxer briefs as 2 free gifts. It's not just about your balls, although it's pretty oftentimes always just about your balls. They also have cologne to round out your perfectly groomed appearance with the smells of a Greek god. And for a limited time, you can go to manscaped.com using the link down below in the description and get 20% off, free international shipping, and the travel bag plus the boxer briefs for free with code UPPER20. Again, that's manscaped.com with code UPPER20 for 20% off, free shipping, and 2 extra gifts on top of that. Big thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring the video. So why do I say that this has become a clear bubble and is poised on the precipice of a card value collapse that will leave, I don't know at this point, tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people at a major loss? The answer is multifaceted, but to start with, I want to tell an anecdotal story about supply and demand / volume that will help illustrate my point. A number of years ago, when I was in college, I was just learning how to trade on the open stock market. I had big aspirations and very little relative knowledge, but one day I got convinced by some online articles, silly me, but whatever, to invest into an OTC penny stock. In fact, this thing was a fraction of a penny, and having done well previously in some trades, I was a bit too overenthusiastic and impulsive. I began to buy shares. Now, this was an accumulation period of probably a couple months at least. I couldn't buy all that many at once, but I could place fairly large orders every 2 weeks. And these 60-day orders were slowly filling because I was able to get more and more shares as people offered them up over time. I don't remember how many I had in the end, but it was many millions of shares. It wasn't hundreds or even tens of thousands of dollars or anything like that in relative cost, but it was quite a few thousand that I had saved and earned through previous trades. Here's the important part. The stock had extremely low relative volume. I was buying up what I could with orders that were open for days on end, and I felt good about that, but what I didn't account for is that the volume didn't exist to offload those shares quickly. Weeks went by, and eventually I just stopped buying more because I felt I had enough. The price wasn't really going the way that I wanted. I was actually down, I believe, in the price swings, and they were really big because even tiny little bursts of buying or selling would push the market one way or another. But then my day came. There was, for some reason or another, to this day I have no idea why, there wasn't like a press release or an article or anything. There was, on that day, a larger volume of trades, a lot of buying pressure, and the price per share skyrocketed to like 10 times what I had paid or something like that. When I was finally able to act on this, because I was in college at the time, late morning, maybe early afternoon, it seemed like a clear point where I should sell, so I began to do so. At first, it worked. I was offloading hundreds of thousands of shares at a price far beyond what I had initially paid, but the price started falling. Instead of taking more chunks out of my sell order, the price fell below it and kept dropping. I decided that this was probably my only exit. I just had a bad feeling, and I was still up in total, even if I undercut where the price was currently at while it was falling, so I did, but there just wasn't enough volume anymore. What little trades were happening were sell orders, and they just kept coming. The entire rest of the day went like this until the price was actually below what I had initially paid in the beginning by a lot, and even if I undercut, I still couldn't get rid of my shares because no one wanted to buy them. The next day, I was at a huge loss, somewhere around 40 or 50%. It was a long time ago, I don't remember, only mitigated by what I had barely managed to sell in the very beginning. And the volume was so low, it was painfully obvious I was not going to be able to offload these shares anytime soon. Ultimately, the company went under, and it was a total shareholder wipeout, with me holding the bag. This taught me something I'll never forget, and it was actually a really valuable lesson that is it's probably good it happened to me, but whatever. Something that I see looming on the horizon right now today, and something that should be known when you trade within or define value by a peer-to-peer network where your only actual value held is a function of what, or if, someone else is willing/able to pay for it. That's pretty much a rudimentary statement. In all honesty, basically every single existing market operates that way, but a lot of them have intrinsic value. Oil, gold, corn, etc. have immutable value in the world based on their practical uses. Gold for electronics, oil for transportation, and so on and so forth. That will change in decades and decades, but that's the truth for basically our existing future. Major companies typically offer a product that has an actual application. For instance, in the marijuana industry, even though it may seem like that's not the case to some people, there is pain relief and a whole bunch of other functions. The automobile industry, transportation, on and on the list goes. Even in the purely digital world, you often have something that underpins a kind of baseline value to the stock. It's not unimpeachable. Bad management, debt, and a whole slew of other things can override whatever baseline value there would be or should be. But the idea is there are uses and functions beyond the simple existence of the item. Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards, as well as Magic the Gathering and whatever other cards are wrapped up in this booming peer-to-peer economy that we have recently seen, are a bit different than that. The value is predicated heavily on condition. This means you can't really play with the cards or derive entertainment value from them in the traditional intended sense. For the most part, some people do or can or whatever, but for the most part that's true. And a heavy number of people flooding into the market right now are deriving their value or enjoyment exclusively from profiting off of these cards. The best example would be a recent $375,000 first edition box transaction. A channel named Dumb Money, which they absolutely deserve as a name, by the way. These guys are dumb. But anyways, a channel named Dumb Money, owned and operated by three confoundingly rich men, bought a Pokemon first edition box from a community member named the Collectibles Guru. A few moments in this stream were particularly telling, and in truth, I'm actually very, very glad this was shown to be a scam live on air, because if it hadn't been, and they had pulled, let's say, a $500,000 Charizard card on their first pack, the amount of money that would have flooded into this hobby would have hit like a tidal wave, and then been subjected to the rampant scam-driven shadow economy that is all too real and thriving beneath the surface. Effectively, had they been successful, even just from a PR perspective, it would have exacerbated every single impending problem I'm about to highlight. Anyways, a few moments here were particularly telling, such as the claim that the collectibles guru was extremely nostalgic, but that concept fundamentally changes when he says, "I loved when I would take the card and sell it to someone else for a 70% markup." Not only that, but the dumb money investors themselves, and that's an important term here, very important actually, investor, not collector, repeatedly make it obvious that this is about the value side, not the card side, not the enjoyment of the hobby, not the collection building, none of it. I won't devolve into a deeper analysis of why it appears that the collectibles guru blatantly tried to scam these guys out of $375,000, how his story didn't match up, how the contradictions by his own word made it obvious that either he scammed them or the person he got the box from scammed him, and yet he was going to buy 2 more boxes from the same person and then sell them to these same guys, which really, I can't get over this. They deserve that name. Dumb money. But anyways, the entire thing was just a complete disaster. They had $375,000 worth of cards on the table during their second deal when they finally got a box that wasn't a scam, and this millionaire asshole was going to put them in plastic Ziploc bags. The collectibles guru, a supposed expert on all things Pokemon, slides a card face down across the table, which could easily, heavily impact the PSA grading. None of them have plastic penny sleeves, which are a simple must-have when you open even moderately expensive packs, let alone the most expensive Pokemon deal in history. And the hard cases that they do have, that he had in his backpack, the expert just jams the cards in with his finger, which again could easily impact the PSA grading and the value by a tremendous amount with even one single tiny little scratch. There were 3 live streams in total, and the combination of them were painful to watch and infuriating for even the most casual fan of the hobby. Even the guy sitting next to this expert was like, "Are you sure you wanna," as he shoves a multi-$1,000 Charmander raw dog into a hard case. I'm not even close to being an expert on these things, and my collections are laughable, but watching this, it hurt my soul. Logan Paul spent $200,000 on a first edition Pokemon box. Dumb Money spent $375,000 on a first edition Pokemon box. Heritage Auctions sent a box off for $360,000, I believe, and these are just the highest profile examples. But the reality is that the investment mentality, the expectation that your investment will mature and become more valuable, and that you open these packs with the intention of having cards graded and priced in based on book value, that mentality is becoming more and more prevalent by the day. So, having established that the peer-to-peer price values for most hobby cards are rising right now, we need to know why that's happening. The biggest reason is COVID-19. COVID-19 might seem like a strange causal factor here, but let me elaborate because it actually makes a lot of sense. The global pandemic has come with a variety of side effects to it, ranging from lockdowns to stimulus checks and unemployment benefits, and the sum total of those factors are directly causing the meteoric rise in collectible trading card value. The reasons are actually pretty straightforward. 1, people have shifted spending habits away from a variety of previously common items and services. Less travel, less haircuts, less luxury food spending and dining out, less activities like arcades or movies or what have you, and a whole host of other things that come with that. And this comes in tandem with stimulus money, at least in the United States, and that's where I'm from, though that was admittedly a single instance, as well as hefty unemployment benefits that actually increased, contrary to what many believe, the amount of money a great deal of people were collecting while also spending less with their other activities and staying at home more often. So what replaces all of those gaps in entertainment and activity? Hobbies. An easy comparison would be video games. The sale of video games has been absolutely booming. The gaming industry is doing better than ever because people are bored. People have reallocated their spending habits to now include things that keep them busy from home, and the result is that certain industries take off and others die down. Collectible trading cards with a fusion of nostalgia and potential profit for a large number of spending age adults are a prime, and that's just based on age demographics, like when Pokemon was, new and popular, and Magic the Gathering as well. A lot of the people that were into it back then now are in a position where they can spend a lot of money. They have disposable income. They're the ones receiving the stimulus check and the unemployment benefits, so it fits right in. They are a prime candidate to answer the question, the collectible trading cards are, what do I do now with my time and my money? And the resulting influx of investment, purchases, and interest in the market has been causing a massive price increase almost across the board. Seems like a great time to jump in, right? Well, maybe not, because COVID-19 will end. We are pushing towards 3 separate vaccines in the United States alone. The efficacy rates are in excess of 95% in some cases. The global pandemic, the lockdowns, and the unemployment benefits and stimulus initiatives will eventually end. And when they do, something like 60% so far of small business closures are permanent. The market will rebound eventually, but the current time and financial freedom for a huge number of people engaging in the hobby will radically change fairly soon. The extra money per week while you sit at home and don't spend as much on dates or kids or leisure or clubbing or whatever it may be will flip, it will invert, and become completely inverted for a lot of people to an extreme. And for others, even worse, it will become a downturn in financial stability owing to the looming recession that we all, globally, are staring down the barrel of. A recession and a financial reevaluation at the middle class level causes a pullback in hobby spending and, most importantly, at a retail investor level, a liquidation of portfolio assets. With Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering cards now being viewed as investments, with investor money funneling in at all different levels, driving the prices higher and higher and higher, we will see an equal pullback when the financial winds change, and those cards are pushed back onto the market in order to convert between assets, or even simply use the money for essentials. That conversion puts us at the doorstep of a drastically overinflated peer-to-peer collectible market, where the only way to sell a PSA grade 10 Pokemon card, or whatever it is to directly find a buyer who wants it for the price you wish to get. A price that is currently ridiculously high, causing more and more boxes to be uncovered for that potential reward, and opened and trade hands, and disperse their contents far and wide. Even worse, the scamming economy for these collectible cards is increasing at a proportional rate to the price. When a box of cards can sell for tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, you will see people become increasingly innovative in their ability to steal from you. There is an entire section of this card economy based on preventing theft and evaluating packs to determine whether or not they have been opened and resealed. Thieves will find ways to perfectly shrink wrap boxes after taking the packs and weighing them to find the minuscule discrepancies with extremely precise scales that tell them which pack contains a holographic card, and they will then replace it and steal it. We can see evidence of this as a $375,000 box was literally opened on air and had been blatantly looted and resealed. This proportional increase in crime, tandem to the market value of these cards, will cause a problem because eventually, as the finite number of existing legacy boxes, packs, and various sets dwindles, and the price progressively rises while the investors flood in still, eventually, the ratio of legitimate to fraudulent merchandise on the market will reach toxic levels. This is a compounding problem because as the pandemic recedes, the excess cash flow for many investors, not collectors, investors, will dry up. Some of them will begin attempting to sell, which creates downward pressure on the price, and this will increase exponentially as we move into an actual recession. Meanwhile, the volume of fraudulent packs will lag behind this pressure and remain disproportionately large for a decent period of time because the added costs associated with preventing or mitigating a potential scam, combined with the insane prices of the packs and cards themselves for a lot of different sets, driven up by the pandemic factors, will price out many of the remaining traditional collectors. This creates, ultimately, a glut in the market, a glut that coincides with impending financial downturn, and the effects of a glut in the market as many retail investors become increasingly pressured to sell, thus pressuring the pack, box, and card prices to fall in a peer-to-peer trade-driven ecosystem that has been rising disproportionately for months during time of financial excess, will be a perfect storm of market factors that will not just pop this bubble, they will eviscerate it. Now, to be clear, certain sets I believe will be kind of fine. I expect that legacy first edition boxes and packs should be fairly insulated simply as a factor of how rare they are becoming, something that has accelerated in recent months especially because the value has shot up so fast. But the downside here is that as legitimate boxes become more and more uncommon, false boxes will become increasingly common as a result, especially in those legacy sets and those first edition, different iterations. However, a huge number, dare I say a supermajority of investors in the space right now cannot afford even a fraction of a $375,000 box. They cannot even afford the $1,000 or $2,000 boxes without spending beyond their means, for most of them. Keep in mind that the majority of Americans can't even foot an unexpected $400 expense, so many of them diving into this card economy with their excess stimulus and unemployment paychecks because of COVID-19 will quite possibly be subjected to financial strain during an economic downturn, which will come directly after. And what will be the first thing that they do? Liquidate, or attempt to liquidate, the assets that they acquired in the hopes that they would mature in value. That's the $100, $200, $300 type packs and boxes, as well as the $50, $100, even $500, whatever it is, whatever it may be, type cards. That's most of the sets and cards in circulation, and those sets with a rising number of sellers, a toxic amount of fraudulent merchandise lagging behind, and a more pressing necessity to reallocate the money that is tied up in those products looming overhead because of an economic downturn, will drive a catastrophic crash in the general value of these collectible cards. Here's a comparison. In Holland, during the 1600s, a certain type of tulip bulb became very popular. The price of these tulip bulbs began to increase faster and faster. Everyone wanted them, not to plant, not to collect, but to sell later down the line and make money. It got so insane that it is estimated today some bulbs were selling for an equivalent of about $750,000, I believe, while most were trading in the range of $50,000 to $150,000. These bulbs were an investment, a hefty investment, but when the bubble finally popped, and pop it did, everyone who held the bulbs simply waiting for them to rise further was forced to sell. The collapse was so severe it left many people destitute because they had been purchasing these bulbs on credit, and that's not to say that the collectible trading cards of modern day are even close to that bad or in a similar situation right now, but the effects of having an item that has no actual use or real value being sold for thousands upon thousands of dollars just to have it and then sell it later down the line, which is what an undeniably large section of the current community have been doing and are continuing to do, and that number is only growing as the price increases, that's pretty much identical. Bottom line, some of the sets and legacy cards / items from Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Magic the Gathering will retain value. Might, I guess, retain value, but even that could be false, and a large amount of them, a huge amount of them, will not retain their value. The accessible sets that most retail investors and flippers are able to access with their budget and within their means are not among those that will retain their value as efficiently, as far as I can tell. That's my opinion here. And all factors combined, the impending financial downturn will cause a market collapse that anyone in the space should be extremely cautious of. These cards are not a to the moon type situation. Don't be stupid with your money. Understand what is likely coming and make sure you accurately evaluate risk. Just because a website tells you that the card you are holding or whatever it is worth hundreds of dollars or even thousands and beyond doesn't make it true until someone actually buys them or it. And if you miss the bus, it might be a long way down and a long walk home. But that's it. You can never be too cautious, and I believe that a significant market downturn is cruising straight for the collectible card community. Be careful. If you want to support, there are links down below: merch, Odyssey, locals, also Manscaped. Again, use that link for the discount and bonus items, as well as another gaming YouTuber to check out, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.